What we see happening on the college and university campuses, and now the high schools, public and private, some of the Christian academies, is a cultural Marxism under the guise of critical race or critical feminist theory.
For the first time in almost 250 years, America is in the midst of a revolution. While there have been outbursts of violence, it has been a mostly ideological attack on the nature of truth itself, fostered in our educational system.
There's an effort to destroy everything that was great about Western civilization. They're rewriting the history of the nation, and the end goal is to destroy America and its institutions, particularly the family.
At the root of cultural Marxism is Karl Marx's absolute division between oppressors and the oppressed.
You think about universities, they used to strive to be places where you got a marketplace of ideas, that you had a diversity of ideas. That's not what they are now. They have become indoctrination centers.
This has been seen on campus after campus, where instead of open pursuit of truth, radical students now declare ideas and speech they disagree with to be violence and thus worthy of repression.
I did not realize that there were arguments against freedom of speech. And I began to study this and discovered that it goes back to Herbert Marcuse, who was a Marxist in the 60s, who says that Marxism will never advance as long as the oppressors, the capitalists, have free speech. So they should not be allowed to speak, and they must be silent and give the other side a chance.
Cultural Marxism has spawned the popular theory called intersectionality that is driving everything from the recent street riots to the tearing down of statues to the push for open borders to the transgender movement. It comes from Marxist critical theory and is applied to race, sex, gender, nationality, and a host of other categories.
We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on sort of ideological theories.
There's one group of people that they are the oppressors, no matter what they may have done with their lives, no matter what type of life they've lived, no matter what, you are categorically an oppressor. And have a second group of people that are categorically, irrepressibly, and inescapably oppressed. And the main thing that they use to advocate this is skin color.
Critical theory also drives the recent frenzy to indiscriminately tear down statues and monuments.
Well, I think what's behind it is this progressive impulse to redefine everything in America in a negative way. So, not just Confederates, which of course we hear a lot about that, tearing down Confederate statues, but also the Founding Fathers. They say, well, the Founding Fathers had various problems, and then various presidents had various problems. And every aspect of America is being redefined in a negative way. And so because of this, the progressives and people like that are trying to say, well, since everything in our past was bad, we have to junk all that, get rid of the Constitution, get rid of American history, and move forward into this new utopia that they're planning with socialism and equality and so forth.
This Marxist notion of intersectionality, in which each person plots themselves along a graph of victimhood, is why, for instance, a Christian baker who declines to participate in a same-sex wedding ceremony is attacked as an existential threat and prosecuted by the authorities.
When I came to Christ when I was about 23 years old, I turned over all the rights to my life and everything that I do, the way I raise my family, the way I work. As we opened the business, the decisions that we made as far as which cakes we would create, which cakes we wouldn't. My marriage, my employees, everything in my life, I want to reflect His living through me, His love for me and my love for Him. I opened a bakery 25 years ago now, so I could incorporate my love of art and my love of baking and use cakes as a canvas. But one afternoon back in June of 2012, two gentlemen came into the cake shop, and I sat down with them and we made our introductions. And one of them said, "We're here to look at wedding cakes," and the other one said, "It's for our wedding." And so I knew that this was not a cake that I could create, and so graciously tried to tell these two gentlemen that. It's like, I'm sorry guys, I don't do cakes for same-sex weddings. They were surprised and like, well, what do you mean? So, I'll sell you birthday cakes, cookies, brownies, any other custom cakes. I just can't create that cake. At which point they both stood up, stormed out of my shop, flipping me off, swearing at me. When the Civil Rights Commission ruled in my case, they said that I had to start creating cakes for same-sex weddings if I make wedding cakes. And so we stopped making wedding cakes at that point, which was about 40% of our business, 40% of our income went away. I went from 10 employees at the time down to 4, including myself.
After a prolonged legal battle waged against him by the social justice warriors in Colorado's government, Jack Phillips's First Amendment freedoms were vindicated by a 7-2 vote at the U.S. Supreme Court.
The Bible says that, John 15, that we need to abide in him. And that comes from spending time with him in his word, and then he will be faithful and just. And if we abide in him and he abides in us, then we'll bear much fruit, and he will be there with us.
The thing I would urge people to remember is that history is to a culture what the memory is to an individual. If one day I wake up and I've lost all my memory and I have amnesia and I don't know who I am, where I live, who these people are in my house, I'm very lost. My world is chaos. So it is if a culture doesn't know its history. It's lost its collective memory, and as a result, we'll be living in chaos. I think the degree to which we have forgotten our history or abandoned it is the degree to which we're living in chaos today.